I'm Elex Michaelson. This week, the issue is crisis at California's border. An influx of migrants crossing the border with Mexico with a big spike in Chinese migrants. Fox's Bill Melugin joins us from the border with exclusive reporting. Then, Democratic Congressman Dean Phillips in our studio discussing his primary challenge to President Joe Biden. And Democratic Congresswoman Katie Porter talks about her close contest for the U.S. Senate. As the issue is starts right now.
Broadcasting across California, you're watching The Issue Is.
Where are you from?
India.
India.
China.
China.
Georgia.
Georgia. Ma'am, where are you from?
China.
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 Fox's Bill Melugin reporting from the California border community of Jacumba this week. Migration from China into the area up 500% this year. Bill Melugin joins us now from San Diego. Bill, welcome back to The Issue Is.
Hey, Alex, good to see you, man. Thanks for having me.
You have reported so much in Texas, now California in the spotlight. What are you seeing on the ground in our state?
So it's been interesting. In recent weeks, much of the illegal crossings have shifted away from Texas right here to Southern California and in Arizona. What we're seeing here in San Diego sector is a huge surge of illegal immigration from countries all around the planet. I've met people here this week from China, from Kyrgyzstan, from Kazakhstan, from India, from Afghanistan, from Peru. Literally the whole world has been crossing here. It's the Chinese nationals, though, that have really been exploding, Alex. More than 21,000 Chinese nationals have crossed here in San Diego sector just since October 1st.
So why? What is it about China?
That's the golden question, and I wish I had an answer for you because we've been trying to find that out all week long. We've been talking to a lot of them as they come across. Obviously, there's a language barrier, but we use some of those translator apps. Most of them appear to be economic migrants wanting to come to the United States for better jobs and better work opportunities. We really haven't heard anybody claiming asylum. What's been interesting is groups of Chinese have told us how they got here. They flew into Turkey first, then they flew into Mexico, then they bust their way up to Tijuana, and then they just walked across the border without resistance.
California's Democratic governor, Gavin Newsom, couldn't be more different from Texas's Republican governor, Greg Abbott. And you see that in the policies on the ground. What's the big difference you actually see at the border in California versus Texas?
Oh, man. Polar opposites. When I'm in Texas, like specifically Eagle Pass, razor wire all over the place. National Guard, Texas DPS troopers. The federal government and Border Patrol have been kicked out of the area. Texas essentially locks it down with its own state military, and they will physically shove migrants back when they come to the river. Here in California, no razor wire, no National Guard, no troopers, no resistance of any kind whatsoever. They are free to just walk through or around the border wall. And once they get here, California is a sanctuary state. California offers all sorts of benefits to migrants who are undocumented. That includes, as recently as this year, offering taxpayer-funded healthcare benefits, health insurance to those who are undocumented here, Alex. So the approaches between the two states could not be more different.
And I know you reached out to California Governor Newsom's office about that, and they basically are blaming this on the Republicans for their lack of action with the border bill. You were out with California Republican Congressman Darrell Issa this week, visiting the border in Jacumba. Here's some of what he told you.
My message to President Biden is close down the border based on the policy changes that have allowed this.
So, we had that border bill. Republicans in the Senate and the House had a chance to pass a bill. It would have tightened asylum laws, sent more funds to the border. They killed the bill. You're there every day. You see this objectively. Would that bill have improved the situation and made the crisis not as bad?
Objectively speaking, there were multiple things in the bill that conservatives may not have liked, but overall, would it have improved the status quo down here? I believe the answer is yes, for a number of reasons. Number one, once you hit that 5,000 threshold, the border essentially shuts down and they reject all asylum claims in between ports of entry. Why is that such a big deal? Because the way it works right now is once migrants once they cross into the U.S., as soon as they step on U.S. soil, they are allowed to make an asylum claim. and that's when we get those mass releases with what's called an NTA, a notice to appear, and they're released into the U.S. with a court date many years into the future. There were other poison pills in it for Republicans, but look, they've got a 1 or 2 seat majority in the House right now. They don't have the Senate. They don't have the White House. Anytime there's compromise, neither side is going to like everything.
And there are, of course, legitimate asylum cases. I know you spoke to somebody from Mauritania who said that he is a gay man and he was trying to flee oppression there. In his country, you get stoned for being gay. That would be like a legitimate asylum case, right?
100%, yeah. If that is the case and he's telling the truth, he sounds like he's got an airtight asylum case. And the problem for him is there's been so much asylum fraud down here at the border with predominantly economic migrants using asylum as their vehicle to get into the United States that the system is so backlogged by millions of people, it may take that guy from Mauritania years to finally see a judge, get in court, and get his asylum case resolved, Alex.
So it doesn't look like there's going to be a fix in Congress anytime soon. We know the president is looking into some potential executive actions. What could we realistically see at the border in the next few months to fix some of this?
There are certain things President Biden can do at the executive level. Remember, like essentially week 1, day 1, he reversed all of Trump's policies. If nothing is done, I believe this spring and summer we're going to see the worst numbers yet, because that's been the case the last 3 years. We have the last 3 years as a record. Each year has set a new record, and once you get into those spring and summer months, the numbers shoot up like a rocket ship. And look, let's face it, right now, word on the street amongst the migrants around the world is they feel President Biden is much nicer at the border than President Trump was, and if they feel there's a chance that President Biden gets voted out of office later this year, I think more of them than ever are going to rush the border this year and think, I got to get in while I can.
Well, Bill Melugin, you have been on this for years, doing some of the best reporting in the country on this. Thank you for your tireless reporting. You can watch him on Fox News Channel and follow him in social media as well for some of the best info on this. Stay safe, my friend. Keep up the good work.
Thanks, Alex. Good to see you.
Up next, the congressman challenging Joe Biden for the Democratic nomination. Dean Phillips is here when we come back. President Biden visiting CJ's Cafe in South LA this week with LA Mayor Karen Bass. He spent 3 days in the Golden State raising millions for his re-election campaign. He talked a lot about Trump during the trip, but didn't talk at all about the Democratic opponent he's currently running against. That's this guy. Dean Phillips is a Democratic congressman from Minnesota, challenging President Biden for the Democratic nomination. Welcome to The Issue Is.
It is good to be here.
So for folks that may not have seen you on that much media, because for some reason a lot of media aren't paying attention to you, who are you and why are you doing this?
Who am I and why am I doing this?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm a father, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a Gold Star son. I lost my dad in the Vietnam War when I was 6 months old. And I'm watching the 2016 election with my family after a career in business, Belvedere Vodka, Talenti Gelato. At least I know what Americans like, I gotta tell you, Alex. And I'm watching the 2016
Alcohol
election.
and ice cream.
Exactly, yeah. And I'm watching the 2016 election, and probably like most of those in California watching this right now, I was shocked. I was shocked by the outcome. But what really jarred me is waking up the next morning to the sound of my youngest daughter crying in her bedroom. I promised my 2 daughters at the breakfast table that morning I would do something. And I ran for Congress to resist Donald Trump. I was trapped in the House chamber on January 6th because of Donald Trump. And he's returning to the White House this November because Joe Biden cannot beat him. And in the absence of anybody with the courage to stand up with more name recognition than I to run in this race, your own governor, Vice President Harris, Gretchen Whitmer, many others, someone had to do it.
Why are you convinced that he can't win? Because if you look at a lot of the polls, it's really competitive right now. There are scenarios where Trump is ahead, but I mean, it's close.
We have 7 battleground states in which Joe Biden is losing in every single one right now. He was never behind in 2020. He's losing in every one right now. And his approval numbers are literally at historic lows as measured in this last century. The worst is what people are seeing on their screens. He's a good man. I respect the president. I campaigned for him. I passed his legislation. I admire him. He was probably the only Democrat that could win in 2020. He is probably one of the only ones that will lose in 2024. That's what the data says. His decline is real. And the more he's encapsulated and kept from the public, the more people are going to realize they'd rather side with a strong man who lacks character and competency than a man in decline, and that's the problem right now.
You've talked about the polls with Joe Biden, and the polls for you are pretty tough. I mean, there was voting in South Carolina. He got 96% of the vote. There's a poll we want to show, an Emerson poll of California voters of Democrats. We got the primary in people voting now.
Sure.
Joe Biden at 75, you at 9. What is the path for victory? And if there isn't a path for victory, is there a moment where you say, me being in this race is hurting the eventual Democratic nominee?
My intention is to accrue delegates, and I will. I got 20% in New Hampshire. But I'm introducing myself to the country, and it is my belief that come June, July, when we have head-to-head polls, me against Donald Trump, Joe Biden against Donald Trump, the country will see we can either coronate a candidate of the past who's going to lose, or we can nominate a candidate for the future who can win.
You mentioned Governor Newsom. Do you think he's a coward for not running?
I don't think he's a coward, but I got to tell you, he's campaigning as hard as I am. And I would just say, why not, Mr. Governor, enter the race? In fact, I saw him in South Carolina. He's a very able leader, obviously. I don't believe he can win a national election, but that's beside the point. Yes, I wish he had entered the race. I told him when I saw him in South Carolina that he should have entered the race, because that would have demonstrated the kind of person, the kind of party that we should be, and I wish he had taken that step.
And what did he say to you?
He smiled.
Yeah, that was that.
He smiled.
Yeah, so you made a little bit of news this week. You talked about this idea that you may be open to running on a unity ticket with Nikki Haley, with you both running for president and vice president. Why is that? How would that work?
My mission is to defeat Donald Trump. Joe Biden will not, in my estimation. So I think it's smart for all of us to keep our hearts and minds open to other ways that we might accomplish that. Nikki Haley and I are the last two people standing between a Trump and Biden rematch. 70% of the country doesn't want that. 86% of the country believes that Joe Biden is too old to serve until 2029. If the country was interested in a unity ticket, one Democrat, one Republican, reasonable, common sense, willing to work together to demonstrate what this country is capable of, why wouldn't I consider that? And frankly, why wouldn't she? But at the end of the day, I will not do anything that makes it easier for Donald Trump to return to the White House. I will only try to defeat him.
Who's president, who's vice president in that scenario?
I think the truth is, I mean, if you're being objective, you'd need someone to peel votes from the Republican nominee, who's going to be Donald Trump, and that would probably put her in the top of the ticket and probably me as VP.
So you think that running as Nikki Haley's vice president is more helpful to the country than supporting Joe Biden as the Democratic nominee?
Well, the data says Joe Biden can't win. That's my contention. People can look objectively at it. And all I'm saying is we should all keep our hearts and minds open to potential ways to defeat him if it's clear that Joe Biden can't.
Very interesting. So here on our show, we do something fun called Personal Issues. This is rapid fire, 30-second get to know you, because we got to get to know you, right? That's the point of this. So these are cultural favorites. First thing that comes to mind, sort of one-word answers. All right, ready? What's your favorite TV show?
My favorite TV show was The Odd Couple.
Ooh, favorite movie?
We're talking about VP and president.
Yeah.
Shawshank Redemption.
Okay. Favorite book?
Favorite book is 1776.
Very nice.
And Night, and Elie Wiesel's Night.
Favorite musical artist or band?
The Replacements.
Who's your favorite athlete?
My favorite athlete is still Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
Got it. Even though I'm a Minnesotan, that's really hard to say about a Chicago Bull. But yeah, Michael Jordan.
Who's your role model?
My role model is my mother.
Why is
my mother
that?
is an extraordinary survivor. Lost her husband, my dad, in Vietnam, remarried a wonderful guy, an entrepreneur herself, and someone that I look up to every single day.
So we always end with music on this show, and so we thought, why not end with your music?
Oh, with my music?
This is you
I love
singing
it.
Shallow. What's the story with this?
Okay, so my wife, Annalise, is a trained musician, went to school in L.A.
All right, well, listen, one more time. Here they are. Thanks for coming in, Congressman Dean
Alex,
Phillips.
thank you so
Appreciate
much.
it.
Appreciate it.
In the shallow.
There is a candidate on this stage who has done that again and again, getting earmarks for his private corporate donors.
This week, Katie Porter taking on Adam Schiff on NBC, the third and final U.S. Senate debate. Here's the latest poll from PPIC. It shows Schiff solidly in first at 24%, but Porter and Republican Steve Garvey statistically tied for second place, with Democrat Barbara Lee significantly behind them. Congresswoman Katie Porter joins us now from her campaign headquarters in Irvine. Congresswoman, welcome back to The Issue Is.
Great to be here again.
How do you see the state of the race in the final days?
People need to vote by March 5th to make their voices heard, to participate in deciding who should be our next senator. I think one of the things I have to offer California is that I'm very focused on our future. In my time in California, we've seen housing affordability get worse. We haven't made the progress we need to on climate, our rights being under attack. And so it's really a campaign, I think, in our case, about shaking up Washington, about doing things differently, not having more of the same from career politicians, including corporate PAC money.
All right, so the different newspapers have made their endorsements. The LA Times editorial page endorsed Schiff, the Sacramento Bee endorsed Lee, and the San Francisco Chronicle endorsed you. Here's a look at the title of that article. It says, Katie Porter deserves to make her case for Senate to California voters in November. Can you compare what a Schiff-Garvey matchup looks like for our state versus a Schiff-Porter matchup in November? What does that look like for Californians?
Well, a Schiff-Porter matchup, that is having two of us go through, will guarantee a competitive election all the way through November. What does that mean to regular Californians? It means that their future senator will be talking about the issues that matter to them. We'll be traveling the state. We'll be listening to Californians, talking to small business owners, nonprofits, focusing on the issues that are challenging us, including homelessness, crime, border security. If it's a Schiff-Garvey matchup, the race is basically over on March 5th, and I think that is really bad for California, and it's really bad for little d democracy. We do best when we have competitive elections, and it's really disappointing that Representative Schiff is spending millions and millions of dollars trying to end this election before November.
Although, wouldn't Republicans like to have somebody in the race? I mean, it's good for them.
I'm sure Republicans would like to have somebody in the race, but I think what we're seeing here is Republicans are not spending to put Steve Garvey on air. The only competitive the TV ads we've seen, the only communications from Steve Garvey to voters are coming from Democrat Adam Schiff. And so I think that should show voters what they need to know about what the strategy really is here. It's about taking the best qualified woman who's competitive in the race, who can win in November, off the ballot. And I don't think that's what someone who's a self-styled defender of democracy like Representative Schiff should be doing at this point.
You've called this whole thing a cynical political strategy to essentially lift up a Republican that he thinks he can beat. But you now are lifting up Republican candidate Eric Early. Isn't this whole thing, this idea of lifting up Republicans like this, just kind of the consultant-driven, same old political Washington stuff that you say is wrong with the whole system?
Well, our advertising and our campaign, our voter engagement has consistently been, throughout this campaign, largely positive, talking about me, talking about what I've done, standing up to big corporations, delivering free COVID tests, fighting big oil and big polluters, addressing the cost of living. And I think what you see from Representative Schiff is that his positive messaging isn't moving the needle. And make no mistake, having Steve Garvey on the ballot is a boon to Republicans, if not in this Senate race, certainly down ballot. They want to be able to trot out Steve Garvey. He can sign a few baseballs and say he doesn't know what he thinks about any policy position or what he'll do about any problem. And that's a boost for the Republican Party. That's not what Adam Schiff or any Democrat who wants to represent the state of California with our values should be doing at this point.
But why spend your money lifting up Eric Early?
The truth is, Eric Early is representative of Donald Trump's values. He is representative of the values of down-ballot Republicans. He strongly, vehemently supports a nationwide abortion ban, and that he is MAGA 100% Donald Trump.
You know, you just wrapped up the third and final debate, and of the three debates, which was your favorite? No, don't answer that.
The first one with Alex's host, obviously. Yeah. I really do think it was terrific. Thank you so much for your work.
I'm just kidding with that. But the point being, though, I didn't give you in that debate an opportunity to make a closing statement, but I want to give you that opportunity now. But let's keep it quick. So, like 15 seconds. What is your last pitch to California voters?
This Senate race is our opportunity to make sure that California's problems get solved in Washington. More of the same has not brought better lives and better livelihoods to Californians. I am running to shake things up, to do it differently, to put Californians ahead of big corporations.
You know, I got to give you credit because in the first debate, you were one of the only people that stuck to time. Your colleagues did not.
I think you're looking for the word only.
The only one that stuck to time. So your colleagues all went long, so I didn't get to do my personal issues shtick that I wanted to do during the end of the debate, but I want to do it with you now. So these were the questions we were going to ask during the debate if we didn't run out of time. So this is a little bit of fun. 30 seconds on the clock. What is the last TV show that you binged?
Oh, I've been watching The Tourist, and it's terrific.
What is your favorite karaoke song?
Bejeweled by Taylor Swift. I like the line, I did all the extra credit and got graded on a curve. And also the line, I think it's time to teach some lessons.
Who would play you in a biopic?
Oh, I don't know. I'm a big Amy Schumer fan. I thought the latest publicity around her was terrific.
And we learned that Star Wars is your favorite movie. What is your favorite Star Wars character?
Oh, Chewbacca. Because I think often, particularly in politics, things you say get distorted. People can't understand your message. So he's just a great warrior for good in those movies.
So Katie Porter is the Chewbacca of California politics. I love that. We've learned in the past that your favorite musical artist is Brandi Carlile. So we end this with music, You and Me on the Rock. Congresswoman Porter, thank you so much. Best of luck in the final days of the campaign.
Thank you, Alex.
It's you and me on the rock.
Extended conversations with all of our guests by streaming the Issue Is podcast. And a reminder to get out and vote. Ballots should have already arrived at your mailbox. Final day to vote is March 5th. We'll see you next week for our final show before the primary is over. Thanks for watching The Issue Is.